Welcome back, everyone, to more from the Sableyes. I'm here today with Blake. How are we doing, Blake?
I'm doing well, thanks, Mitch.
That is good, and we're back at our Winner Box tournament. People playing some games for us because we can't be bothered recording all of them. And ironically, Blake, this is actually one that you're featured in. You're on the left-hand side playing Dark Box against Calvin, who is a first-year master who has decided that Pidgeotto Control is the way to go for this fun Winner Box tournament.
Yeah, he's really out to make friends here. Famously, last time you guys saw Calvin, I was having a go at him on the channel last time we played at a League Cup. So you'll know my opinion on Calvin's playstyle. So this time I was able to correct him in person while we
Yeah,
were playing.
that's fantastic.
Which is great. It should be known that Calvin hated the idea of being on camera again because of how much he screwed up last time and how much he got ribbed by his peers about his misplays.
It's actually quite interesting, Blake. It's interesting you mentioned that because Calvin actually offered me $20 to not be on camera. But here we go. Calvin's got himself a start, and as do you. And Calvin looks like he's going to draw a mulligan as well. This will be a very interesting matchup because I know that Pidgeotto Control is one of those decks that's seen a lot of hype out of America. And Dark Box appears to be one of those decks that could really benefit from Cosmic Eclipse as well. This matchup will be very, very interesting.
Yeah, there's some great new cards from Cosmic Eclipse for Dark Box to enable it to get better starts. With the new Silvally, which I'm opting to run over the Naganador line, and the red and blue, we can get some really good early acceleration and some super strong draw power. And of course, we also have the new Guzzlord, which takes 2 prizes on non-GX Pokemon, or just takes extra prizes on all Pokemon, which is mainly used for those non-GXs.
It's 120 and takes an extra prize, so realistically, you're
Yeah.
looking at those non-GXs.
Yeah, unless I butter some up first, but usually that's just for the non-GXs. But here I've got a 2 Sneasel start. Calvin's got led with his Oranguru, and he's got himself an Elm, which is pretty much all he's after here, and he's had a look through his deck here, just looking at his what his price and all of that jazz. Trying to really show off and show us he's doing the right sequence there. But I know for a fact that Calvin still misplayed this turn because he told me after the fact. Because he told me that he's elmed here and he's grabbed himself 2 Pidgeys and a Ditto.
Yeah.
And he has no play next turn, as he so told me himself.
Okay, fair
so
enough.
I think he top decks his way out of it the next turn with either a Pidgeotto or a draw supporter. So, yeah, I think he
Just
just
having a
leaves
bit of
it
a
at
look
this
there.
for
Yeah,
now.
there doesn't look
He
like
doesn't
there's a
have
huge amount there, so that's a pass. But it's a fair turn. It's what Pidgeotto Control needs. And here we go for Blake, your first turn with Dark Box. You've got a couple of energy here. Looks like there's an attachment to the Sneasel. There's a Cherish Ball at the back there, a Tag Call. You've probably got all the cards that you need to start setting yourself up this turn.
Yeah, so ideally I want to go for the turn 1 Lily, get myself some type nails and the Sneasels. I've already got the Sneasels, so really I'm just looking for these type nails now. So without the Pokecoms, I don't really have a good way to find those. So I'm just going to try and thin out my hand as much as possible. I've got myself the Dene to draw some cards because I haven't hit any draw supporters apart from potentially a Cynthia and Caitlyn off of that Tag Call, but that's not going to cut it for me. So I'm going to Dene away the rest of this hand and try and find some of those type nulls so I can get started. But it's pretty awkward for me because I haven't approached this matchup at all. Birds is a pretty uncommon matchup down here in Australia in general, let alone South Australia. Not many people like to play the slow stooly control decks around here, so we don't get to see it as often as we'd like to get that practice. But a lot of people, I had people telling me all sorts of different things about this matchup, like, oh yeah, you'll crush him, like it's an easy win for you. And then I had other people like, oh yeah, this one's going to be rough, and I was like, oh my god, so many conflicting opinions. What is it?
Yeah, it's one of those things going up against Stall. No one wants to play it. No one wants to test against it. So no one really knows what to do. But hey, it looks like we've got ourselves a bit of a board here, Blake. Managing to find type null there, and I can see you've also got Tag Call in your hand. So that will be a red and blue for next turn. Could potentially grab yourself a Weavile or even a Silvally, which could be really, really strong. And
Yeah,
just passing across to Calvin.
Yeah, I've got the Silvally in hand and a Tag Call and another Energy. So I'm really, really relying on the ability of Silvally to draw me some more cards, because otherwise I've only got Cynthia and Caitlyn. And then we see a Crushing Hammer hit heads on my Sneasel, which is annoying, but the Power Plant comes down, and I'm pretty sad inside at the moment because I did not have the Counter Stadium. I was not able to find any copies of my Chaotic Swell, which I'm playing at the moment to try and avoid this sort of situation from happening. Part of the reason I was digging so hard because I know how many Power Plants these lists run. But yeah, I've got myself stuck here.
Yeah, but Calvin's going to give you an out here. He's going to stamp you away from it.
Yeah,
so
I think
very kind.
This was part of Calvin's misplay here, was the fact that he has to play down his hands to draw cards with Custom Catcher, because he's got 3 in his hands, and he has to play out all of his cards to basically draw cards off Custom Catcher to actually get himself stuff to do next turn. So I was pretty happy when he gave me 6 new cards after completely bricking my hands.
Yeah, that's quite nice of him. And it looks like that hand could potentially be significantly better. We can see the Chip Ice Axe coming down. Oh, sorry, mate, you go.
I know. Sorry, I'm just doing a quick scan of the hand, but the Chip Ice Axe is more important here. Calvin's going to try and find the least important card there. Has to read the Stealthy Hood first and see how useless it truly is.
Figure out how important that is.
Yep. It's not Malamar, so it is very much very much useless in this matchup. So now Calvin just has to thin out his hand a little bit more before he can start drawing some cards here.
Yep, and the pro stall player shuffle deck in between every shuffle there from Calvin.
He shuffles every time.
That's all right. He's entitled to do so. And you can see him scanning his hand here. What's the best route to play? Try to play Surge there, but I don't think that's going to work, because you need to be behind on prizes to play that card, and I'm sure that Calvin will read that in a second and realise.
Well, I remember this distinctly because you're sitting next to him, I remember, and we're talking. We're both sort of yelling at him right now, going like, "Mate, it says on the card you can only play this card if you're behind on prizes, and you can't play cards to no effect, especially if they say you can't even play them."
Oh, that's all right. That's okay. And he manages to get himself into a Mars here, which is pretty strong.
He has to bench he benches
He's going straight for the cards. He's going straight for the cards.
and then he goes to play the Mars, and he just snatches his hand out to rip a card out, man. Oh, hold on, mate. Let me randomize. Let me just chill. Let me randomize my hands. Like, calm down. So, it's all right. Doesn't matter though. He still rips the energy straight from my cold dead hands. He's doing a good job of getting rid of all of my energy, of course. Without the Ultra Beast package, I'm not recurring energy here, so every energy Calvin gets rid of is really important. I'm only playing the 12 as a baseline at the moment. So yeah, every little bit counts for Calvin, so ripping these energies off Mars is slowly killing me here.
That's really important, yeah, and you've managed to get yourself a couple of Pokemon in play as well, Blake. You've got a Silvally down, you've got a Weavile in hand, so you're going to be able to evolve that, but none of them are particularly useful when that Power Plant is down.
Yeah, and here I can just keep getting myself more Stage 1 basics, because in this matchup I know energy's going to be a problem, so I want to give myself as many Evo lines to red and blue into as possible over the course of the game, so I can keep charging myself up with energy as the game goes on.
Yeah, exactly. So this is probably a pretty strong position to for Calvin to be in, but oh wow, top decking into the Elm there. I see what you mean, managing to top deck out of the issue.
Did not know he top decked that. Did not know he top decked that Elm, but there you go.
That's okay, and this is going to be able to grab him 3 Pidgeottos. Of course, that's the strength of this deck, is that a couple of Elms sets up your entire engine. So he's going to grab those 3, you'd think, and then we're going to start seeing some Airmails, which is going to be pretty exciting. Calvin will need to find himself some more of those disruption cards, and obviously the key is to get that deck to as low a size as possible, so that every time you resource management with Oranguru, you're getting exactly the cards that you want off of Pidgeotto.
Yeah, and you can see on my side of the field, I'm just sort of regretting my life choices here that led me to this situation at this point in time. So Calvin's going to go through his Airmails, I think, just trying to get himself some more disruption, some more energy. Somehow through Calvin's through misplay and giving me a fresh hand of 6, I still haven't found the Counter Stadium, unfortunately, so that I can actually play this game. But yeah, Calvin's powering through his deck here with Acrobikes and Air Mails, and yeah, just trying to find that disruption. More Acrobikes. He's just powering through.
He's really going now. Gets rid of the Giraffe rig there as well. It's kind of hard to see
elect to just because of the nature of how Calvin uses his Air Mails, I decided to switch that power plant over the other side, so he quits bumping it because it was really irking me. It was just a pointless thing that was really bothering me for no reason.
Well, that's all right. It looks like Calvin's he's set up himself over here. He's got all of his Pidgeotos in his hand. Is starting to see a little bit of size. And Blake, you're going to be desperately looking for a way to remove that power plant. If you can get rid of it, if you can replace it with something like a Chaos Swell, then maybe we'll be able to see some action here. And I guess one of the really good things is that you can just attack with Weavile until you find yourself a baby Guzzlord. You'll be able to get yourself a whole bunch of energy on that active and take knockouts on Oranguru.
Yeah, so my game plan was basically to attack with either Weavile or Silvally until he felt the need to use Cold Crush on my active, and yeah, I find the Chaos Swell here, so I'm back in action. What I really need is a Darkrai Prism and an attachment to go with it so that I can get to the point where I can attack with a Weavile, because at the moment I just don't have enough energy on board due to these hammers and lack of energy attachments to find each turn under this dead draw. But, you know, I see that I can't attack with Weavile, and it's not red and blue, so I just decided to keep hitting him with the Sneasel, because, I mean, he's not declaring attacks, so I have nothing to worry about.
Exactly, like, it doesn't matter if you just use Ambush over and over and over again, eventually something will happen, I guess. But now we get to see the good old Pidgeotto going for broke. The Recycle Energy comes down, we've got ourselves a U-turn board onto a Pidgeotto, and now we're going to see this deck really kick off. The power plant goes down, but it's eaten by that Chaos Swell, and then a Cynthia for a fresh 6 cards for Calvin.
Yeah, it's just what I want to see. Just eat up a power plant, hopefully reduce its count, force him to resource management the power plants back in order to take control of the stadiums, and waste those instead of the more annoying disruption cards like Crushing Hammers, so that I can actually get a foot on the board here. And what I really want to do is I just want to get into a position where I can just knock out that Articuno GX before it gets to declare Cold Crush. If I can force him to have to resource management to try and get that bad boy back and disrupting my board. And here,
Calvin playing down 2 stadiums. What are you doing, Calvin?
Calvin forgets one of the basics of the entire game.
That's alright. He's picked it straight back up.
Yeah, because I scolded him harshly that somehow he's forgotten one of the basics of things that you can do during a turn, which is 1 stadium per turn. 1 energy attachment, draw per turn.
He's got it covered. And looks like now we're looking for the resource management. It's really strong for Calvin to get that recycle energy so early. And he's choosing here a Chip Ice Axe, a reset stamp, and a power plant. Nothing else really catching his eye in that pile of cards for his discard, and chuck those back on the bottom of the deck, and they'll be there for next time. Now, Blake, you get an opportunity to start taking some knockouts, and there's a second Guzzlord that you've got yourself into there. That's probably not the best card to get 2 of, but hey, it's decent.
It's a card.
Yep.
But yeah, like you said, I'm not really looking for another one. He's not going to be knocking it out. It's really the energy that I need. But yeah, I really need to start taking prize cards, and I've got a great catcher and 2 Guzzlords and a Cynthia and Caitlin. I'm just like, okay, how do I navigate this? I'm only drawing 1 card off my Silvallies if I use them, so should I thin out my hand first, or do I play Cynthia Caitlin? And I decided to Cynthia Caitlin and get a Malolana, because I fear that one of the ways Calvin is going to get me covered here is by capturing up my bench Pokemon and stalling them in the active position after he's removed my energy. Because I do have some very chunky boys on my team. If he gets one of those up to the active, it doesn't matter if I can move around all my energy, because there's not going to be much of it, and it's not going to be enough to move them. So I really need to keep recycling those switch cards whenever I get the chance, and Cynthia Caitlin's the chance to do that.
Yeah, exactly, and you can see you're really mulling over your decision here. There's 2 great catches in hand now, so there's the opportunity to gust out that Articuno twice if need be. The question is it worth doing now, or do you just take the knockout on the Oranguru? And it looks like you just opt to take the knockout, and that's a perfectly fair and reasonable thing to do. And grab yourself a Mega Lopunny off of the top of those prizes. And it's probably not going to be the most useful card in this matchup, but hey, you can discard it with Great Catcher, so that's good.
Yeah, and unfortunately for me, it looks like there's another power plant in Calvin's hand here, and yeah, he pops it down. I don't know how many of those bloody things he's playing, but it is frustrating for me to deal with. I'm struggling to find my own stadiums. All I'm finding is useless cards for the matchup right now, and my most inefficient support is to play each turn. Calvin's got himself a Hapu here. He's debating that.
Not to play it.
Yes, he can now famously play that Surge that has been stuck in his hand since the first turn. So he's going to airmail first, though. And
that's probably a fair call. Just thin out some cards, decide that, hey, maybe I've got a better route of play here. I don't need to commit to the Surge straight away. I can airmail 3 times. He does have the Oranguru in hand as well, so it's all good.
I think what Calvin's after here is a way to shuffle his deck so that he can get access to those cards that he put back in the deck off of his resource management.
Yeah.
Because right now his deck's not completely thin, so the only way he's seeing those is if he either gets to them or shuffles the deck before using his airmails. And well, it looks like he's gonna just use all of his airmails first and then go for the Hapu after playing Surge. So
yeah.
He's gonna see some good cuts here. So he is playing 2 copies of that Articuno GX. I never saw more than one the whole set, so I didn't actually know that or not, but interesting. So he's got some tough choices here. Obviously, the Crushing Hammer has got to be a must, I think, if you're Calvin. It's just stripping me of energy is just the goal, really. Once all my energy is gone, then you're free to do whatever you like, and so that would be the priority for me if I was in his shoes at the moment.
Yeah, and you can see him really tossing it up. There's a couple of choices there that are kind of catching his eye. There's an Oranguru that he likes, but he can't take that with Hapu. He's going to need to instead take that Crushing Hammer and chooses to just chuck those all away. A Great Catcher and a Crushing Hammer are pretty good cards for this matchup, especially with the Power Plant in play. If eventually he can find himself in a position where you've run out of stadiums to replace, we can start whittling that energy down, forcing you to find a couple of cards that you don't want to have to find.
Yeah, and over the course of this game, I've found myself in a position where I've had to evolve these Pokemon without the use of red and blue, so yeah, not as much energy on my board as I would like.
And that's a very awkward promotion as well. The fact that you've had to bring up that Silvally GX, the Gust is really painful and hits the heads on the Crushing Hammer as well. Oh, it does it twice in a row! Unbelievable!
That's the third. Oh, okay, let's go for the fourth.
Oh my goodness gracious
4 for 4 Crushing Hammers.
That knocks them all out of the park. Wow, okay.
Just all in one go.
Now
you understand what I mean when I said this was a brutal game.
Yeah, no, so before recording, Blake said that this game was a pretty brutal one, and I was just sitting here being like, oh, of course, you're playing against Stall, of course it was brutal. But yeah, no, 3 Crushing Hammer flips on a turn to remove all of your energy from the board would be very upsetting, especially with a Silvally GX in the active that can't do anything because of Power Plant. This is a rough time for you, Blake.
Yeah, now that I've seen Calvin's side of it, I'm very confused as to why he played Tate and Liza there, because he had a really good hand built up there. But, clearly he wasn't content with it, so he's just going to re-establish it from the get-go again.
Yeah, it looks like opting to grab out Jesse and James, and now that there's energy off of the board, perhaps Calvin can start to establish some hand control as well. We've got the energy on the Oranguru. Resource management is happening. Jesse James in hand means that now Calvin can potentially start stripping you of cards in hand. Playing another Poker Gear here as well. Can grab yourself some Mars. That seems pretty good too. And that'll
probably discard an energy.
Oh, it probably will. And it's that hand is getting pretty. Sorry, not that hand. That deck is getting pretty small now. So it's starting to become a much easier task to find the things that he wants to find.
As the deck gets thinner for Pidgeotto, the deck gets stronger, so you can find those exact tools you want every time. Yeah, it's just going to get rougher and rougher for me if I can't stabilize soon.
Yeah, so we can see Calvin here just doing a quick look through, trying to find out the cards that he's interested in resource managing back in. And looks like he's established what he's looking for. There's going to be a Surge going back into the deck, as well as a Great Catcher and another Oranguru. The energy is constantly going to be in play, but he obviously is worried that maybe there's a knockout coming. He needs to make sure he's got another Oranguru to get. Just having one last little think about the specific order, not that it really matters too much, and chucks him back down. And here we go, Blake. How can you re-establish some control of your board after that horrific turn? It's going to be tough.
Yeah, well, I've had a little look at my top deck here, and yeah, it's not much to do here. I can switch, I can attach Dark. I just got to attach Dark and just pray, I think. So I've just given them the turn.
Yep.
Attach the Dark, and yep, that's it.
That's
cool.
it.
He's got even more power plants to go. Awesome.
Well, that's the thing as well, right? As he keeps putting them back in.
Yep. They never leave.
And so one more ML. Has he used all three? I can't remember. And grabbing some cards off of the Pokegear here and shuffle that deck again. And the Surge means that now we're going to start seeing some real control from Calvin. He's going to be able to potentially discard 3 cards from your hand this turn, and can even put in a bit of a reset stamp as well if he chooses to. Yeah, it's a bit of a pressuring situation. And there's that third airmail that he hadn't used, choosing to grab the Oranguru and putting the Great Catcher back to the bottom of the deck.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of playing Reset Stamp unless it's going to affect how well your opponent is drawing. Likelihood is that if your opponent's not doing anything, their hand's plenty bad enough, so there's no point refreshing it for them.
That's fair enough. It looks like Calvin's thinking around the same lines as well, and is going through that discard pile, maybe to try and decide what am I going to do. But no, chooses to reset stamp, and it's a respectable decision. I can completely get behind that. I probably would have done the same thing. Stamp you down to 2, Jesse James you, and then Mars and remove a random card that you wanted to keep. I think that's a fair call. Yeah, hopefully doesn't backfire on him here.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, the only thing for me is that I didn't have a replacement stadium, I didn't have a draw supporter, and now I get to choose my 2 best cards, and look at that, it's 2 draw supporters. So, I mean, for me, I'm always confused by the need to play cards to a detriment in my mind, because those are cards I didn't need. And then we're just going to see, like, even if Mars takes my best card, my second best card is still Lily.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Yeah, that's fair. And it's one of those ones where it's a tough deck to play control, especially if you are not necessarily the most patient. And I know me personally, when I play stall variants like this, I really struggle to maintain the patience required. And Calvin hits another energy. He's really doing well off of these Marses. That's 2 Marses to energy and 4 Crushing Hammers. So that's 6 he's discarded. It's very impressive.
And he still hasn't used Cold Crush yet, so things are looking pretty grim for me.
Yeah, I tell you what.
Over the course of the game, I've also either retreated or used a Detonated Ditch energy as well, so I think I'm actually down 8 energy at this point, which means I've only got 4 left. So without targeted search for energy, I'm actually going to have a hard time finding them, even with these draw supporters that I've now been given the gift of having.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal, and we can see the Oranguru resource management happening, and like you said, Blake, not the end of the world. You've got 2 supporters in hand and a tag call, so you could potentially find yourself some extra cards. And see here, you're kind of tossing up, do I play the tag call or do I just Lily? And it looks like you've just gone for the Lily there. 4 cards. But none of those are amazing. That seems like a bit of a dud, Lily.
Yeah, it might seem confusing as to why I chose Lily over the Cynthia, because the Cynthia is obviously the better choice of supporter there. But shuffle support is really important against stall, because when they're trying to deck you out at the ends, you just need to be able to shuffle your hand back in, because a lot of the time they're going to leave you with a big enough hand size that you're going to need to refresh your deck with Cynthia, which is why I elected to keep that resource instead. But I didn't find anything off the Lily, and I needed to, so I just decided that this is not going well enough for me. Trying to scoop it up and go to a second, and maybe have this one go for bit better for me.
Yeah, exactly. You're obviously aware that about 20-25 minutes have passed, and if you're practicing against Stall, one of the most important things to be able to do is to be able to scoop at the right time. You've got to identify the games that you're going to win, the ones you're going to lose, and give yourself the most time to maximize your opportunities to play as many games as you can. If you can go to a Game 3 against Stall, then you're likely going to at least salvage a point. So I think that's a pretty strong scoop there from Blake, as strange a concept as that is, because it gives 35 minutes to play at least one more game. You can at least get yourself a result if you have to.
I think it's something that's especially foreign to newer players, because when you're starting out in a card game, you'd like to think any game is winnable if you just play well enough and you draw the right cards. But there are some games against control decks that are just far beyond your control, and not due to your ability or your lack of trying, but just because your opponent's created a board state where you can't recover from. And it's really important to identify when that is, so that you can just change that environment and quickly go to more games and make sure you can resolve the set in your favor instead.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is what I've gone for.
Yeah, you want to give yourself as much time to get a result as you can. And now, Blake, you've given yourself plenty of time to potentially win a game, if not two. And that hand seems a little bit better than the first game's opening. Calvin doesn't look like he has an Elm there, but he does have the Power Plant, so he's going to lay that down. Here's a Crushing Hammer. Can he hit the 5th one in a row? Why, of course he can, Blake. Remove that energy, please. And then Cynthia away for 6. Unbelievable.
How do you like it?
Unbelievable. Even when he dropped the dice, it landed on a head. That's unbelievable. What's going on, mate?
This kid's gifted, I tell you what.
He's a magician. Unbelievable.
But yeah, I've lilied for a full 8 here, and I like all the cards in there. I don't need to play anymore. Playing more cards from my hand would just limit my options for next turn, because I have a bunch of Pokemon and stuff that I could communicate away and change for the situation. Now, of course, Calvin has gone for the less optimal Cynthia because he has not been able to find his Elm. He's gone for a Pokegear, try and find himself some stuff to go for next turn and thin out his deck so he has more chance of finding that Elm. He just desperately needs it to get started here.
Yeah, it really does.
But all I need here is a red and blue or a Darkrai Prism and the combination of Weavile to get 2 energy on the field, and then I can start taking knockouts. And knockouts is the name of the game here, especially on Pidgeys, because reducing the amount of those he can have access to. There's no way he's going to have access to a Pidgeotto next turn if I take this knockout, so that would be ideal for me. I've got the Silvally GX from hand, the Viridian to bump the Power Plant, which is exceptionally strong for me here. And I believe I have a Pokemon communication to actually find myself a Darkrai Prism to go in tandem with this.
Well, you don't actually need to find it. You've actually got it in hand already, which is really strong. So there's that one. This Pokemon communication can instead be used to find something even better. That's a Weavile GX, and now there's a knockout on Callum's only Pidgey in play. And the fact that he's lost that Elm on the first turn, he's missed it, means that he's actually going to get punished here pretty heavily. There's no support in play for Calvin. He's only going to have a lone Oranguru, and that Greninja Zoroark is really coming in clutch here. A decent early game attacker. And you'll see drawing 3 cards here off of the Silvally to
and there's that
use
swell
as well,
which is really important finds for me, because if nothing else, that Power Plant comes down, I'm just going to need to bump that stadium. I can grab myself the Lily off the Cynthia Caitlin and draw myself another 3. I can find a backup Sneasel here. I can chuck that down, give myself the option to red and blue next turn, get even more energy into play. And then I can attack with pretty much everything in my deck. Another Dark Energy to hand. It's all flowing. This is basically the ideal space here. Like, I know Calvin's drawing poorly, but this is
unbelievable.
Different.
I'm gonna have to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Calvin just rolled. Oh my god, he just rolled 2 tails in a row. That's unbelievable.
Yep. So the man does bleed. He can roll, and he also can miss Dark Energy off of Mars as well.
Yep, and you can see him. He's desperately looking here, trying to find himself anything that can help. He's got some Pokemon in hand, but there's nothing really worth putting down.
There's no Pidgeys, there's no Elm, and there's no survival. It's just desperation here. The Girafarig goes down just so he doesn't get benched out here, and he gives himself a resource management. Now, I'd just like to say that for all his dead drawing, this kid has managed to find 3 Crushing Hammers off of, like, half a draw supporter. So that frustrated me enough as it was, even though I'm easily winning this match right now. So, yeah, that's insanity for me. But I'm in a super powerful position now. It feels like the writing's on the wall for this game, at least as far as I'm concerned. Now, my face lights up as I see the Guzzlord here because I realize I can start putting on a lot of pressure here if I can just get an extra energy into play with this Guzzlord.
Yeah, all that's required is that 1 extra energy. If you can find a way to do it, you can get the Guzzlord to attack, yeah.
The next turn, once I have an extra energy in play, I can start using Red Banquet and start taking 2 prize cards off of Calvin's Pokemon. I Pokecom, and I have a look at a type null, but then I realize I'm going to need that bench space for the Guzzlord, so there's no point grabbing that one for now. I'm pretty content to just play the Lily that I grabbed back into my hand from last turn, and then just continue to put the pressure on here.
Yeah, exactly. You can lay that Guzzlord down onto the bench and then Lily. Just because you don't get to attack with it this turn doesn't mean that it's useless. So grabbing yourself a Sneasel off of that Pokemon communication, then immediately discarding it with Viridian Forest gives you access to that energy. Did you just attach twice?
Did I just attach twice?
I think Blake just attached twice this game. What a cheaty boy. Unbelievable.
Oh my god. Blake, what a controversy.
Blake, oh.
Holy
well, I'd like you to officially apologise to Calvin right now, mate. Because you should not be taking these knockouts. I'd like to formally invite Calvin to start an inquest into Blake's cheating, which has obviously been caught on camera.
I would just like to say, for the record, I'm pretty sure Calvin scoops like right here after this Tate and Liza. So I don't think it matters that I took an extra prize, as long as the fact that I took the prize.
No, it matters. It matters, Blake. I'm gonna really focus in on this.
I'm pretty upset because I've usually got a really good track record for not breaking rules on recordings and stuff like that. But I guess the camera makes fools of us all.
It does, and it's funny because all you needed to do is just attack as well. You could have just attacked.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I think my eyes just went red on the Red Banquet. And I just funneled in on that Red Banquet and just, yeah, okay. Well, there you go.
Word. Oh, there's the power plant. Calvin's still playing. He's still playing the game. This is horrible. This is bad news, Bears. There's going to be a pass here from Calvin. We're going to need to see... Oh, it's touching more energy. The nerve. There's 2 more in your hand, Blake. Why don't you just put them down as well?
Yeah, and there's a red and a blue as well. This time I'm going to legally cheat out 2 energy.
Oh my word.
That is hilarious. Oh my god. You know what? I'm not even ashamed. I'm not even ashamed that happened. He played so poor and destroyed me with 4 Crushing Hammer heads. I get that extra attachment.
Oh dear. Well, it's okay, I guess. At least it's not like the end of the. It's not the.
Yeah,
it's not like it's a League
4
Cup
prizes instead of 3 right now.
Yeah, it's all right, but that's okay. It's if Calvin manages to find nothing off of this top deck, then it's probably he probably would have scooped anyway, I'd imagine. But that's okay. There's the knockout. That one you probably could have gotten legally. So really, you should be on 3 prizes instead of 2. And
there it is.
So there you go. Oh boy.
Nothing sus here. Just a couple of boys doing legal moves and not cheating.
Well, at least now we know why Blake scooped that first game, so he could give himself the opportunity to cheat in the second one.
Yeah, there was absolutely no opportunity for me to cheat in the first game.
Yeah, exactly. He removed way too many energy too quickly, but that's all right.
I'd just like to say that for the people at home, the onus is on both players to maintain game state at all times. So we would have both got probably a game loss there. So.
It's alright. It's okay. We tease
all fun
because
and games.
We love.
It's just a winner box. If this was worth CP, my face would be a little red right now.
Yeah, but, no, that's fair enough.
Luckily, it was just a winner box, and well, spoiler alert: me and Calvin didn't really come close to winning the box.
That's okay. It's all right. It's okay. But here's the thing. Like, back on track. The thing that we really should focus on here is the fact that you've managed to draw out a loss out of Calvin really quickly, and that's one of the things that Pidgeotto Control can sometimes get caught. Get caught with the fact that those games end pretty soon if you do manage to get on top of them. So because you scooped that game where there was maybe like a chance you could have won, but realistically it was very unlikely, because you scooped that early, 10-minute game 2 gives you another 15 minutes for game 3. Could potentially win if you need to, yeah.
And suddenly, if there's another bad game like the second one, I can suddenly win this set when, by all rights, I have no means to, or no reason to.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks like Calvin's not going to have as bad a start as he did in that last game.
Yeah, and that's just it. Like, that's just the stark difference between decks that are so reliant on those turn 1 supporters like Elms. Strongest decks in the format when they hit the supporter they want, but without him, it looks pretty lackluster.
Exactly, and here comes that Ditto. Looks like he's coming to the front, as do a couple of Pidgeys. But Calvin will be probably thinking this time, I'm going to make sure that I actually give myself a play for next turn.
I do believe that this time but I only remember him having 2 Pidgeys this game, so I think he grabs 2 in a Pidgeotto just to give himself a play for next turn. But I do believe I saw 2 Elms in his hand, so I feel like going for 3 Pidgeys is probably best here.
And there's 1, 2, and it looks like a Pidgeotto, so just giving himself that extra airmail now. It's probably not the worst thing in the world. You could potentially set up 3 next turn, but you don't have to. Like, 2 is perfectly fine for turn 2. Just get yourself drawing through your deck as quickly as you can, obviously. If this is the way that you feel is best, then that's the way you feel is best. That makes a lot of sense. So that's perfectly fine. We've got all of the engine that we require ready to go. And that's pretty much all that Calvin realistically needs to do, but he does have an Acrobike, so he can get a couple more cards. Discards the Giraffe Rig and puts a Water to hand. There's 2 Recycle in his hand as well. He could potentially attach that to a Rangaroo, just in case something goes horribly amiss. But yeah, well, it seems like a relatively good first turn for Calvin. There's the attachment. There's a Jesse James in hand there. That's probably why he went for the Pidgeotto, because there was Jesse James in hand rather than another realm, so that's fine. That's perfectly reasonable.
There we go. Makes sense now. But yeah, having 2 recycles on super early is really nice for Pidgeotto. It means you're never going to have to worry for retreating between Pidgeotto to the Oranguru. You can get a second recycle on there, and then just retreat into that Oranguru whenever you like. Exactly. I cherish ball for that Greninja Zoro because it did me so proud last game. And I see that Calvin's only got the 2 Pidgeys, so I feel like his hand is not optimal, so I feel like I can apply pressure here and maybe do more of what I did last game. But my hand's not great either. I've got a Weaver, a Great Catcher, a Mega Lopunny, a Dark Energy, and a red and a blue. So pretty much all I've got next turn is an attachment to my bench, Greninja Zoro, and a red and blue into my Silvally GX. And then I can attack with Brave Buddies to get a knockout. But after that, I've got to keep streaming supporters off of my disc reload, but I'm here at the mercy of Power Plant yet again because I'm relying on Silvally and there's no counter stadium in sight for me.
Yeah, exactly, and Calvin does manage to get the Professor Elm off of the Pokegear, so here comes that second Elm that you remember. Wasn't in hand originally. That probably explains why the Pidgeotto was the go-to. Searching out another Pidgeotto, a Ditto, and another Pidgeotto. It's probably a pretty solid choice, and that means there's going to be 2 airmails in play for Aaron. For Calvin. We just recorded the first game, that's why I've gotten confused there. 2 airmails in play for Calvin this turn, and then 3 next turn. So he's going to be in a pretty strong position. It's just, seems like a pretty good one. I don't know what to say in these early turns of stall. I've got the things I need.
Speak for themselves. Calvin just needs to get as many Pidgeottos as possible. He's done so in the most efficient manner, given the state of his hands. He played it safe. Unfortunately, he got punished for playing it safe, but he's still got a good board state nevertheless. He's just 1 Pidgeotto behind than he probably would be if he'd just gone for the 3 Pidgeys and played poorly. But, good as him, he played it the safe way. But sometimes you don't get rewarded for playing the safe way.
Yeah, well, he's done the right thing, and then it's just happened to be that card that he's picked up. But hey, there's cards coming in and out of the hand. There's the Power Plant. That's going to be really crippling unless you can somehow top deck out of that. And looks like it might be time for a resource management, or we might even just choose to pass. And it looks like that's it. And oh, a Dene off of the top. No,
Isn't that just beautiful? And well, it's time to yeet that Dene because
see you later.
There is no counter stadium coming, and there is no Sneasel. So I've just decided to work with the resources I have. At this point, I've resigned myself to the fact that the tie is the go.
Yep, fair enough.
So I'm pretty happy with the 1 match point here. Give myself an odd chance at taking home the winner box with only 10 match points rather than the 12 I suspect is needed to take it home. But hey, I mean, when you're against Stool, you take what you can get, especially when you don't know the matchup.
Yep, and there's 4 energy in play now for Blake, and the attachment takes a knockout on the Oranguru.
And just what I needed, another great catcher.
Yeah, exactly. What a strong card.
Yep.
Oh boy.
So suddenly the Sylvelia is now attracting a glare while it's in the active position, where it hadn't been doing so before.
Yeah, there's an odd line where that one down light hit those cards, so hopefully at some point you slide it across a little bit, but that's okay, we know what you've got there.
I'm currently watching this. I don't like the way my energy is sitting, so I feel like I should adjust it soon. If I'm being overly critical of myself, yeah, the Sylvelia's awkward. So Blake, if you could just adjust that Sylvelia and the 2 dark energies so that they're a bit closer together, that'd be great.
Alright, well, Calvin here needs to find himself another Oranguru. There's one in hand. The switch is the thing that is needed, so grabbing some stuff there. That's Bellelba and Bryson Man and a Crushing Hammer. It's a bit of an interesting choice. Goes for the hammer there. Puts the Bellelba and Bryson Man back. That's an awkward card to say.
He's got a great history of crushing hammers in this set so far, so let's see if he can...
hit this one too.
If he can hit this one and reduce the chance of me being able to take prize cards in this set.
Here we go. No, it looks like Lady Luck has abandoned Calvin. Starting to appear more average on those coin flips. And it won in the first game, but not going to be able to do it here. Plays down the Oranguru from hand, and there's the attachment as well. Going to use that on the Pidgeotto, which is interesting. It's an interesting choice. Probably not unreasonable.
He's probably just going for the retreat into the Oranguru and passing this turn, if I had to guess. I actually can't remember how the rest of this played out from here, but I think he's just trying to figure out how he's going to play out the rest of his turn. I'm not sure if he actually supported yet or not. I think he has access to Surge and Jesse and James. But, you know, Jesse and James isn't really doing much. My hand is dead. And there's no point playing Surge when you can only play 1 supporter. So I think he's probably... I would probably consider using Chip Ice Axe if I was Calvin, but looks like I'm dead drawing plenty good on my own. So.
Yeah, you're managing to do it yourself. And there's 50 damage from the Sylvelia. No supporter played, so...
No supporter, so just the 50.
Yeah.
I could have retreated into the Goonjazoa to do 90 instead, but I have the feeling that I'm going to need as much energy as I can get if I'm going to have any chance of resolving this game.
Yeah, and that's a second Jesse and James that Calvin has just put in his hand. This could be a very interesting moment here. There's the option for the Surge double Jesse James here, which could be quite crippling. Obviously, the hand it's already pretty bad, but there's only 4 cards in it, so...
I think if you're Calvin, it seems like a really amazing play to be able to double Jesse James away the rest of your opponent's hand while they're bricking, and then use Chip Ice Axe to control their dead draw. But for me, there might as well be no cards in my hand because none of them are playable.
They're no good. It's not working out.
I can bench the Mega Lopunny, but no real use. So for me, these cards are as good as discarded anyways. So it just comes down to whether or not Calvin decides to control my top decks or not, because I'd really like a counter stadium to get going. I mean, if he gets rid of my hand and doesn't control my top deck, then I can suddenly draw way more cards.
Well, there's the Chip Ice Axe, and he gets to choose what is the card going to be.
Yeah, and then he gets
looks like it's a Sneasel. Get rid of those two, shuffle them
my
away.
My poor Sneasel! No. Both of those cards were acceptable as a replacement. Dark Energy would have given me the energy I needed to retreat and knock out the... Well, I've got enough to do that anyway, but... they're just both better than the Sneasel. Sneasel's just another nothing card.
They were both better than the Sneasel. Here comes the Surge. There's Jesse James.
Here he is. Look at the big wind-up.
Discards the double Great Catcher.
Yeet.
Gets rid of the Elm and needs to choose another card here to get rid of. Looks like it's going to be a custom catcher. And then bang, second Jesse James. Goodbye those two cards. Get rid of the reset stamp, it looks like. And also, one more. I think it's just going to have to be... Oh, it looks like the power plant's going to be going.
Let's go.
Yeah, see you later. So, those are the cards that get sent to the discard. And now, Blake, you are in top deck mode, and it's not going to be a good one.
Yep, being in top deck mode, usually just a really limbo space, but, well, now there's Chip Ice Axe, I know that it's not going to be anything good, so I can just not get my hopes up and just resign myself to doing 50 damage next turn, or retreating and possibly taking a knockout if I so choose. But, I mean, it's not great. I still lose 2 energy. I'm taking prize cards, but, you know, to what effect?
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing as well. You've already given yourself one game. You've won one. You've got about 5 minutes to go. You're happy to just do the 50 damage, and then that's it. I will just take my 1 match point and I'll go on my way.
Yep. I'm not sure how much longer we have left here, but I have a feeling we're running pretty close here. Unfortunately, the situation for Calvin is I'm definitely going to win this game if I had the time to resolve it, which is why it's so important to try and squeeze out a win against Stool at any opportunity possible, in any way possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it means cheating.
Yeah, even if it means putting those extra energy in play.
I don't mean that. Don't cheat. That was an accident, I swear. But no. I mean, I totally had that game anyway.
Who are you trying to convince, Blake? You trying to convince us or yourself?
You guys. I know it was an accident, so it's fine.
Alright, so now Calvin doing his airmails. There's a crushing hammer there that he might choose to grab.
Doing his air thingy.
He seems to be due for a heads flip, so he might grab it, but it seems to be a bit of a choice here. This is an interesting one, and
what a conundrum!
Oh no!
No man, I'm getting tired all over again watching this one.
And that's the crushing hammer.
I know that's what's going on.
It's a heads. There goes an energy. And
I know there's one hand face palming and there's one hand removing energy at the moment.
Jeez, that's brave of Calvin to use that Mars on the one Sneasel there.
To use Mars.
Knew exactly what that was.
I thought that was real. I really did think that was super unnecessary for him to use Mars on my Sneasel because he knew it was useless.
He didn't just Mars it. He surged and then Marsed it.
Yeah.
So
and he knew it was bad. I knew it was bad, and there's no cards that I need to discard for that make it better. So I don't know. I feel like having that in the field of play is probably better, but I think he might have just been trying to draw cards and hopefully use Surge to draw into something else good, like a Jesse James.
Oh, got him! Top deck.
Got him!
Oh, what a lucky boy!
I remember this moment because Calvin wasn't happy. It means nothing because there's no way I win this game in time. But I thought it was hilarious that after all his effort, he missed Chip Ice Axe once, and I just ripped that dark energy right off the top.
And I can see you just doing a little bit of a
I just mimicked that what just happened to the gentleman next to me. I believe you and Scott might have been playing.
I think so.
Mummed it out for you guys, but yeah, it was real fun.
That's a shocker. Well, this is the Orangaroo's in play, so it's fine. He's got access to that energy. There's going to be a few airmails here. And we're still in control. Calvin, again, is going to be able to... There's a Chip Ice Axe. He considered not taking that for a second. That's probably an easy yes, please. And now, going to be able to control those top decks again, but he can't control the prize that you just took.
And I think that's probably my least favorite part about this deck is that if you do drop a game, then it's impossible to close out a set and still get the win. You can't come back from losing any game as the Pidgeotto player because there's just no way to quickly resolve games in your favor. Because the deck doesn't apply pressure on the board. All it does is try to run your opponent out of cards. So, and put them into positions where they can no longer interact with the game. So, it's just unfortunate that they lost cards like lost access to cards like Unknown Hand and stuff like that to give themselves alternate win conditions in scenarios that, like, by all means they should be well in control of, but can't really take advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. And we are coming up pretty close on time here. There's a retreat from the Pidgeotto into Oranguru, and is going to be resource management 4 days. Blake, you're going to be top decking a Pokemon Communication. It's not going to matter too much because the tie is assured.
If only I had that Sneasel still.
If only. You'd be able to grab it to Dene and then pass.
Yep.
And there's time. There's time. So, called on 50 minutes.
As time gets called, I'm like,
yep.
Cool.
Sweet.
We did it. I am out of here. I got my point. I'm done.
That is enough for me.
Calvin just shows me I think it was 2 prize Pidgeys or something, and I'm just like, should have started taking prizes.
Yeah, whatever, man.
That's your problem. If you're taking prizes, that wouldn't be a problem.
Oh dear, but hey, it's an interesting matchup for sure, and definitely one that we are very appreciative of Calvin playing through for us, because we don't want to play stall, and obviously thanks to Blake for playing that one as well. Thank you all for watching. If you like the content, then consider subscribing by clicking the sable eye in the middle of the screen. On the left-hand side, we have some videos that YouTube thinks you'll like, and on the right, we have our Cosmic Eclipse playlist for more kind of gameplay videos and deck profiles. I stumbled over that a little bit. Thanks, Blake.
No worries.
And we'll see everyone next time for more from the Sable Eyes. Bye.
Bye.